So I think many of you already know a bit about Friends of Koala, but we've just recently become, in the last couple of years, we've recently become an actual koala hospital as well as a rehabilitation centre. So we do research and rescue and advocacy and education and all those sorts of everything koala. We also have, and this is like my most important thing that I would like people to do, is on our website we have a report a sighting page. And if you tap on that, you can save that to your home screen. So wherever you are, as long as you've got reception, you can report a sighting. We want to know about dead koalas as well as live koalas, because that lets us still get the age and the gender and DNA, so we can start to put a picture together of koalas in an area. The report a sighting page also has a list of sort of precautionary, so things that could be wrong with the koala, so you know before you report the sighting whether you need to ring our rescue hotline. So there's some magnets there and some stickers that have our rescue hotline number on. If you do have one that's hit by a car, please, if you can, stay with it. So the main things we want people to keep an eye out for are their eyes, because that can be conjunctivitis. So I have a little song. If their eyes aren't clear, don't shed a tear. Let us know. Because if it's untreated, they can go blind. We also ask people to look at the rump, because if the bum ain't white, then things ain't right. And so sometimes staining can just be gum bum stain, like from sitting with the wet weather and the tannins in the trees can stain. Or in a female whose joey's just getting ready to eat leaf, it can be pap, which is like they turn their poo sloppy and the baby gets its head in there and gets all the gut bacteria so that it can eat and digest the toxins in the leaves and impregnate its gut. Or it can be cystitis, which is chlamydia, and what happens with that is the bladder wall thickens to the point where they can't store urine and it just runs out and backs back up and affects their kidneys, but also they're just sitting in that acidy, and then it gets their fur and then they get ulcerated. And so the earlier we can get those, the better. I always say ring, come out, do a health check, then we know. If they're low in a tree on a hot day, that's sort of normal, but it can also be an indicator of heat stress and them needing help anyway because they can't climb, if they're having trouble moving around. They also get cysts, but we can't see that. But that makes them sterile. So they, you know, I sort of think any female that doesn't have a joey either in its pouch, on its back or nearby probably has cysts, and that when they get big can be really bad, painful for them. They also get retrovirus, so often their fur, when it's dry conditions, they'll get a dry fur. So if the fur looks dry and brown versus a nice soft, you get to know, the more you look at them, you'll get to notice those sorts of things.
Is the chlamydia repairable?
I think last time I was here, I was saying we're pleading for the vaccine. Well, we've got a trial now. So I think we've vaccinated so far about 110 koalas. The ones that have come back positive again with chlamydia are ones that have that were first came in with trauma, so car hit or dog attack. I think my theory only is that their immune system just, they're still so stressed from that trauma that the vaccine hasn't really kicked in to build up the antibodies. They haven't been able to fight it.
But you have to get them before they get it.
No, they can be, a lot of the work that Peter Timms has done shows that if they're treated with the antibiotics at the same time as having the vaccine, that boosts the response to treatment. But most of them seem to have, so far, have not come back with chlamydia. But yeah, there's some, they've got to tease a lot of data out over the next year or so. But yes, so we have got the vaccine on its way. But one of the other ways that we can also tell if koalas are healthy or not is from their scats. So this leads into the scat talk. So I'll pass, these are nice healthy scats. So the first ones are from healthy koalas. You can see little tiny ones that they tell you that that's a baby koala, and then there's bigger ones. And don't ever assume that a big scat means it's a boy, because some girls do really big ones too, like my coral, biggest pooper in the universe. These ones are older scats, so they're, you can see they haven't got much colour, it's fading out. Some of them are crumbling. When they're fresh, like up to a couple of weeks, you can break them and really smell still the eucalypt. If it's raining, it breaks down a bit quicker. If they're dehydrated, and it doesn't take much if there's not moisture in the leaves and we haven't had rain, it doesn't take a lot for them to start dehydrating. They're scats from dehydrated or sick koalas, so you can see the difference in the shape between the healthy and the dry and the old scats that are healthy. These are fresh scats, so you'll be able to see the ones that are from last night. They're very moist and olivey green, and the other ones are from within the last 2 weeks, but you'll see the colour of those. Unfortunately, this koala was part of the area that suffered from the heavy hailstorm at my place. That took all the leaves off all the trees. So I've been monitoring a whole bunch of koalas' poos for the last so many weeks to make sure that they are still scatting, that what is left on the trees they're getting enough of, and everything else. So her scats aren't perfect. They're starting to come good as well. So you can see the really olive moist green ones are the fresh one, like last night's, and the other ones are within the last 2 weeks. If you are looking at a tree and you're doing your sat and you find old scats and new scats, and if you're really perverse like me, you get to know which koala does which poos, because... Well, you do. It's like, oh, their corals poos, oh, their legs poos.
When they're in the tree or when they're on the
mostly in the tree or when they go to the tree. So it's when they are asleep and they wake up before they go to eat, they'll let go. So you can find scat anywhere, often out around the periphery where all the new growth is. But they also scat before they go up a tree because they're scent marking that tree as theirs. So that's why we do the sat survey around the base of the tree. But yes, so you'll see, if you see little tiny scats and big scats, you know, that might be a sign that you've got a mum and a young one. If there's old and new, it's like that tree might have been used regularly. If you've only got fresh scats and there's no old ones, it might be that it's just passing through or that it's trying. So the more that you get to understand the scats in your area, the more you can understand about the koalas in the area. And the other way is, I won't go into this because Brendan needs to start soon, but I've bought some bark off my trees. So koalas have different types of scratches. So there's these kind of longish ones. Have a look at them at lunch. So they grab with their front and pull up. So you often get like a double scratch. Usually on like that angle of the tree or on the narrowest sort of part. It's not so easy on smooth bark trees. And then you get these little dimply kind of things. So those little dimples everywhere. You can pass that one round. Get these little dimples, that's their back feet holding when they're going up, but also when they come down, their weight is on those back feet holding there. So the combination of things, old scratches are this grey colour. New scratches tend to, on the smooth bark trees, tend to have that redder, rustier look where they've just peeled the surface off. So if you were to scratch a flooded gum or a forest red gum, you'll see that red line in there. That tells you it's new. So if you've got new and old scratches, the tree's getting used regularly. If they're just new and no old, someone new coming along. If they're just old and there's no new, then that koala's probably lost from the landscape or moved on. So yes, having a look at all those different sorts of things is really important.